Who's he? That's Edward Cullen.
From Twilight to Tenant to Batman, Robert Pattinson's career evolved from teen heartthrob to coveted leading man, and today we're taking a look at the journey of his career. Hey guys, welcome back to another Shared News from Home. Today we're talking about Robert Pattinson's career evolution, but before we dive into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the incredible Tyler Joseph Ellis.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello. So, Tyler, before we dive in, I need to know, are you a long-term Robert Pattinson fan? Did you have a stake in Team Edward or Team Jacob? What's your relationship with Robert like?
What a fantastic question, Fiona. I love Robert Pattinson. Of course, his Harry Potter feature. I mean, Goblet of Fire is my favorite movie of the Harry Potter franchise, and I saw all those films growing up over and over and over again. Goblet of Fire in particular. So his face was in my world early on. But I used to be ashamed to admit this, but not so much anymore. I was 100% Team Edward. I was a little bit confused how anyone could be Team Jacob. I was like, he's barely even in the first movie. How can you be Team Jacob? Edward's risking his life for her. I was a huge, huge fan of his. And I mean, I think Robert Pattinson is brilliant. So yeah, my short answer is absolutely and Team Edward.
Well, as usual, Tyler, I couldn't agree with you more. Huge Edward fan over here, but we will dive deeper into the Jacob and Edward and Twilight of it all in a little bit.
Yes.
For now, let's start with the early days of his career. We're talking pre-Twilight. As you mentioned, the most notable role Rob had before Edward was Cedric Digory in the Harry Potter franchise. He starred as Cedric in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in 2005. It's not technically a huge role in terms of screen time and the amount of actual lines he had. But if you are a Harry Potter fan like us, you know that Cedric has a very pivotal moment in the film, in the books, in the franchise. Let's take a look at some of Cedric or Rob's best moments in the film.
The Hogwarts champion, Cedric Digory.
Yeah! Does courage lie beneath those curls? In short, what makes a champion tick?
The winner is Mr. Digory!
Yeah! What are you talking about?
Harry, what is it?
Get back to the cop!
Who are you? What do you want?
Wow. Okay. So after Cedric, Rob was cast in a few TV movies before landing Twilight, but I really just want to get into Harry Potter of it all. What are your thoughts on Cedric and Rob's performance, that emotional moment? What do you think?
I love him in this movie. It's so fun looking back at a movie that would already be nostalgic for me, considering when it came out in my life. But also the fact that these actors have grown. I mean, if you look at obviously Robert Pattinson, then you look at Daniel Radcliffe. I was going to say Daniel Murphy. I was like, that's not his name. Daniel Radcliffe. If you look at Emma Watson, it's just to see how much they have grown and how they were still really good when they were younger. I was like, wow. So I mean, I love Cedric as a character as well. I'm also a huge theater nerd, and with the play out, the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Cedric Digory, even though he's not a character in the show, also plays a huge part in the plot, in the main storyline. So Cedric, I just love that even though he doesn't have that much screen time, he's so important. And I'm like, well, Robert Pattinson, this is only the beginning for you. Oh my goodness, I just am a huge, huge fan of his, and I think I'm going to be nerding out this entire video.
No, but you're right. It's what a way to really, I mean, he did do some projects, but this really kind of was his first, hey, I'm Robert Pattinson world, and I'm introducing myself to you in the Harry Potter franchise. What a way.
Colossal, exactly.
Yeah, what a way to start a career. Obviously, he does go on to star in a pretty big franchise, another one. So I don't know. Is it time maybe we should just talk Twilight.
Should we do it? I think we should do it. Okay, so it's time. Let's dive into the Twilight era, which is one of my favorite eras in time. Twilight, of course, came out in 2008 and it was literally a cultural revolution. And boy, oh boy, Fiona, when you and I were, I mean, we were the prime age for this
100%.
franchise to come out. For his work as Edward, Rob won 10 MTV Movie Awards. 10 MTV Movie Awards, 10 Teen Choice Awards, and 3 Kids Choice Awards. So again, our generation absolutely in love with Robert Pattinson. Let's break down why the films, though, were so iconic. I mean, we can discuss this, but I mean, the hair, the wardrobe, forget about it. The pale skin, sure. The music, the CGI of it. I mean, these films were so iconic. But of course, we can't really talk about Twilight without a quick walk down memory lane. So let's take a look at the moment we met Edward. Let's do this.
Who's he?
Okay, Fiona, I want your thoughts. I want your immediate thoughts about this kind of first encounter between Bella and Edward. Give it to me.
Well, what's so interesting is me and my girlfriends just sat down the other night and were like, why don't we watch all of the Twilight films? And my real first reaction to seeing this scene after a long time was like, oh my God, what is even happening? Like, these movies are so unique. They have so much cheesiness involved. And there's so many awkward, uncomfortable moments, but like, that's why we love them. I didn't necessarily pick up on all of the same things when I was in my tweens and teens as I did as an adult watching. But I think that's what makes them like so wonderful, is they're entertaining for different reasons perhaps, but like to this day.
Absolutely. It's like as you grow up, like, and you go back to the films, they'll still be entertaining, but for different reasons. Because I definitely took it at face. When we were younger, I took it at face value. I was like, this is drama. This is angst. I was like, serve it to me. This is how I'm feeling in my angsty tween self. And then watching back and just kind of being separated from that part of my life and looking at how just the entire movie is almost in grayscale. Like, the entire thing is so moody. Like, it just, the whole thing is just angst personified. So going back and just talking about those cheesy moments, it's just hilarious. I can't help but laugh. It's like, I mean, when they're together next to each other in that lab setting and they're just like, they're like shaking with like passion for each other. I was like, this is so silly, but I love it. I still love it. So no Twilight fans, don't come for me, Twilight fans. Don't at me, Twilight fans. I still absolutely love the franchise, but for very different reasons.
Oh my goodness, me too. I mean, I used to watch this and be like, this is a love story. Like, this is romance.
Yeah.
This is like the most romantic thing that could happen to anyone ever. And now I watch it and I'm like, oh my God, this is wild. And it's, again, wonderful still, but I have different, I think, standards or interests when it comes to like a romance these days. But
maybe no vampires.
I'm like throwing my headphones. But so I do have to know, Tyler, do you have any like pivotal memories from like going to the theater and seeing these films? Because I feel like I remember the theater for like Breaking Dawn Part 2, like such a moment.
Oh yes. I mean, God, the caravan of people that we would just annihilate this theater. It would just like fill a theater with just a large group of people from my school and just popcorn it out and soak in on the big screen the drama. I mean, the one that comes to mind is, I don't remember when Breaking Dawn Part 1 came out. I was sort of like aging into the franchise. And at the final moment, when her eyes, like, it just closes, it's a close up on Bella's eyes, and they open and they're red. I'm like, like, it was, we were screaming in the theater, and then it was like, Breaking Dawn Part 1, So
Yeah, yeah.
that one stands out because I was like, now we have to wait for the second part. Like I was so upset. But what about you? You said you remember
Oh my
the theater.
God.
Like,
That was such a moment for me. I remember
yeah.
crying my eyes out at the end of Breaking Down Part 2 because we were all like, oh my
Yes.
God, this chapter of our lives is
Over.
over. We're never going to be the
Yeah.
same. I also remember like the first movie. That one to me, that was like a big deal. We
Oh, of
like
course.
coordinated
Yeah.
rides. Someone's parents dropped us off. Like it was like a very special treat.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was a big
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
It's such an interesting thing, like what an impact on pop culture I think this franchise will always
Yeah.
have. Always.
Yeah.
And of course the cast at the time was the biggest thing. Everyone was obsessed with all of them. It was
Oh, yeah.
it was like a new royal family of Queenland.
Like Anna Kendrick, hello, like Anna Kendrick is very much in Twilight, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. When I rewatched it, I was like, Anna Kendrick, who has also had, a career that has completely popped off, but it's more just like, wow. I'm just sitting here being like, none of you have any idea the absolute like iconicness that y'all are having. Like in this film, you are a cultural phenomenon. It's so
It's
special
so
to watch
crazy.
that.
Well, aside from the films and our, of course, deep love for them, we have to talk about Rob and Kristen Stewart's real life relationship status, because even though this, of course, isn't like directly career related, this was a huge part of him becoming like a notable name in the public eye. The obsession with their romance was crazy, truly. And it was a huge part of all of our Twilight fandom members' worlds for many years. Maybe it is just me. I don't know. But I feel like I remember them always being a couple. Like in my mind, they just always were. From the first movie on, they were a couple. But in reality, that's like totally a distorted memory because they did not couple up immediately at all. Kristen actually had a boyfriend all the way through New Moon. Rumors, of course, really ramped up after she and her boyfriend split. That's when things really sort of started to go from fantasy to like, okay, we're all rooting for this. Is it going to happen? The huge turning point came in August of 2009 when the cast was back together in Vancouver to begin working on Eclipse. So like, this is Eclipse. It did not happen, movie one. While they were in town, Rob and Kristen attended a Kings of Leon concert. And at this event, At this event, they were captured. Someone took some photos of them that were all dark and shadowy. They were all wrapped up around each other. It looked like they were kissing, but we didn't have full confirmation. They, of course, went everywhere online. So that was really the first moment that we thought, okay, is for real. Later, when they were all back in LA, Rob was photographed driving away from Kristen's home. So, I mean, like, what does that mean? What was he doing there? Are they together? The drama. And then what follows is truly, I think, one of the most real life dramatics, are they, aren't theys, in pop culture history. They were extremely private. They refused to confirm. That was like their thing. They would not confirm. They would not talk about it.
There are all these rumors about the two of you dating. Is it true?
Kristen's pregnant.
In May of 2010, during a taping of the Oprah Winfrey Show, the staff is briefed on how to handle the talent, and part of that briefing included the disclosure that Rob and Kristen are an item. So May of 2010, via the Oprah Winfrey Show, we get our final first bit of true knowledge. Then flash forward to October of 2011, and they finally speak publicly about each other. Kristen told British GQ, "My boyfriend is English." Come on, guys. It's so obvious. At the same time, Rob went public thanking Ann Curry when she congratulated him on his success and beautiful girlfriend. And he just said, "Thank you." And that was a huge deal. Throughout 2012, they're a bit more public with their affection. Jumping forward to July 22nd, 2012, they accept their Teen Choice Awards together. Everyone is obsessed. Everyone thinks they're happy. Everything seems really good. But then on July 24th, Us Weekly breaks the story that Kristen cheated on Rob with her Snow White and the Huntsman director. Talk about a moment. I remember where I was when I got this news, right?
Wow.
I mean, this was crazy.
Wow. I do remember this. Wow. Okay. You're blowing my mind, Fiona. Continue.
So People Magazine reports that Kristen and the director shared a fleeting moment and that a source close to Kristen labels it, quote, a mistake and a complete lapse of judgment. The next morning, Kristen issues a statement to People apologizing for the, quote, hurt and embarrassment I've caused to those close to me and everyone this has affected. She said her momentary indiscretion had, quote, jeopardized the most important thing in my life, the person I love and respect most, Rob. I love him. I love him. I'm sorry. That double I love you. What a crazy moment. I mean, were you heartbroken? What were your thoughts when this all exploded?
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is just flooding back all these like I just remember being, I think, really disappointed. And I don't really know why. It just, for some reason, I think because of this franchise, I mean, this happens. You've seen this happen. It's like when people get so attached to a couple in their couple characters and then they're a couple in real life, it feels so sad when that's compromised because it somehow feels like a personal attack on the characters for some reason. And I mean, what a messy situation. I mean, to deal with cheating or that sort of that drama, but like so in the public eye where she felt it necessary to apologize not only to him, not only to Rob, but to like America and the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty severe. So I don't know. I mean, boy, I would hate to have been in either of their shoes at this point, but I do. I mean, what's so insane is that I remember it. Like I remember when this happened. It was such a news break. I mean, this was huge at the time. But what about you? Do you remember when this happened?
Oh my God. I remember I was standing in line at the grocery store and I got a call from my friend who was like, did you hear the news? Like, truly in our lives.
Wow, you have a memory of it.
This was like a moment. It was crazy. It felt like the saddest way to end this era. And again, like obviously we're talking about Rob's career, but at the time, this was what we knew of them. This was like, they're one of those couples and we still talk about Brad and Jen. Like we'll always be talking about certain couples, certain like iconic moments in time. And this is definitely one of them. I think for me, standing like here now, I feel so happy for both of them that they went on to survive in this industry, like, and create new identities for themselves and move on from the split and find happiness again. Because at this time, it felt like the world was ending.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it felt like. But they've moved on. I mean, yes, exactly. And we'll get into Rob, but they've so moved on from this franchise in a very impressive way. I mean, I think they're both thriving. I mean, with 100%. Kristen Stewart just being in Charlie's Angels, Kristen's become just kind of this like badass icon now, and seeing her so like quaint as Bella is almost jarring. It's like, wow, you've just carved out a completely new identity that feels so much more authentic. So yeah, I mean, I'm so happy for them. This moment sure was tough, but boy, did they come out of it well. Like, wow.
100%.
Okay, so although this pains me, let's move on from Twilight and let's talk about Rob and how he was able to move on from a franchise like that and not be labeled as Edward Cullen for the rest of his life, because I'm sure that everyone was sort of, I mean, it happens. Look at someone like Daniel Radcliffe in Harry Potter. I mean, he arguably has had it worse because he really grew up from a child to a young adult with Harry Potter. I've seen him do other projects, and I think he's an amazing actor and very versatile, but there's always that Harry Potter twinge in my mind, whereas Robert Pattinson, for me at least, has really grown out. Like Edward Cullen is literally just a chapter in his long book. But the cast of Twilight sort of evaded the curse. As we were sort of getting into him, and Kristen, Rob, Peter, Anna Kendrick, like all of these people were able to be in Twilight, be the iconic people in Twilight, and then move on to have incredible careers. So I think the casting director for Twilight must have really known what was up, because boy, all these people really grew into really seasoned actors. Rob, of course, built his resume from here out to prove he could be a serious actor. And I mean, I think he's done that very well thus far. I mean, films like the historical drama Water for Elephants, starring Reese Witherspoon and Christopher Waltz. I mean, that book was the fact that he was in another movie adaptation of like a huge bestseller, I mean, and doing it with grace. I mean, we have Queen of the Desert with Nicole Kidman and Damian Lewis. He was not messing around. He was going on to really I mean, the casts were insane of these films. The storylines were very serious. I mean, he was not messing around. And then he chose to step out of the spotlight and away from Hollywood by working on lesser known films that really could show off his acting. I mean, his skills as an actor. I mean, The Lost City of Z, Damsel, and High Life. I mean, consistently creating just incredible work. I mean, with really versatile roles, and then but not worrying about if some of them didn't get a lot of attention. I think that's probably the hole that a lot of actors fall into after being the face of every The Tiger Beat magazine, and where do you go from there? I think he dealt with it so well because he was like, I want to focus on the craft. And as an actor myself, I'm like, and in 2019, Rob starred in 2 huge projects. This is just last year. The Oscar-nominated film The Lighthouse, and then Netflix's The King.
They were my father's enemies, not mine. The screams of your men shall lull me to sleep at night.
Which sort of, I guess in our opinion, really just brought him back into the mainstream of Hollywood. Like the 2 heavy-hitting, dramatic, very artful films. Of course, he was starred alongside Timothée Chalamet in The King, and Timothée Chalamet is like the hottest name right now. So I think it just brought, all of a sudden, we're like, yeah, Robert Pattinson. Oh yeah, for sure. So I don't know, just judging from this kind of point in his career in the tens, what are you sort of thinking? Like, how do you think he navigated his career from post-Twilight into like pre-2020? What do you think?
I think, honestly, he was either really lucky or really smart. And I would like to think of him as being really smart, really dedicated to the work, to his own like belief and confidence in his acting chops. Like he went out, started a franchise that made a lot of money, catapulted him to fame. And that was a brilliant career move. He's Edward Cullen. He's Robert Pattinson, who's Edward Cullen. Like he's known from it, right? But he immediately made the choice to start starring in films that I think spoke to him, that spoke to the kind of actor he wanted to be, even if he wasn't the main role, right? Even if the entire focus wasn't on him, it wasn't about that. It was about like, this is a great piece. This is a great film. This is an important story, you know, whatever was going through his head. And I think that he either, again, was just like, super brilliant, charted out a 10-year plan and was like, this is what I'm doing. Or he just went with his gut. And by the time he sort of circled back to these, like The King and, you know, all that jazz, I feel like I wasn't like, oh, where's Robert Pattinson been? He fell off a cliff somewhere. Like, I haven't heard that name in years. Of course not. Like, he's still been in the public eye. We all knew about these projects. But maybe the Twilight audience, per se, we weren't surprised, right? Like, I'm not surprised to see him successful. I've known what he's been doing. I feel like it makes sense. I don't know. What about you?
I could not agree more with you. I think it's a little bit of luck and like just sort of intuition in terms of projects to take on. I mean, he was in a power position at the end of Twilight. When you come out of a franchise like that, the amount of roles that open up to you, and you could just pick and choose. And I think what a lot of people do, especially, I mean, he wasn't that old. I mean, he was sort of like our age when he was going through this absolute fame storm. And he, again, made the decision to not choose the highest grossing films, to not choose the big budgets or the giant parts. He really went back to, why am I doing this in the first place? To act and to tell stories that I believe in. and went to choose those. I mean, I'm sure he had an amazing team behind him that was advising him like this, but I think this comes down to him knowing that he was more than a teen vampire that everyone fell in love with. I think he's like, I'm more than this. I think I could be an amazing actor. And I think with fame like this, you hear it time and time again. Like if you hit like a ceiling, like, oh, I've hit a role. I mean, I can't imagine what that would have felt like to be in Twilight and a super high grossing, fan loved franchise. And then where do you go from here? And I think a lot of people make dangerous decisions when they're in that, whether it be like turning to like, I don't know, drugs and alcohol. Like, I mean, you see that time and time again. But he made the decision to, you know what, maybe in terms of fame, there's nowhere to go but up, nowhere to go but down, rather. But you know what, in terms of skill and projects to take on, versatility of roles, there's plenty of room to grow, and he decided to do that. So I'm just so in love with Robert Pattinson. The more and more we talk about it, I'm like, you are so smart. And he's kind of he's a rarity. I mean, someone with his career path, I'm like, you are doing something right. I don't know what's in the water, wherever you're drinking. I want some of it because it is so impressive.
Okay, so as we were talking about, his personal life was such a big part of his like initial fame during all those Twilight years. And I think what is sort of notable is not only was he able to sort of escape that curse of being like pigeonholed a tween vampire icon, he also went on to sort of not have his relationships be the only thing talked about him for the rest of his career. Of course, you know, there's some interest, there's some conversation, things were followed, but he set this standard of, you guys didn't get a lot of details about me and Kristen. You're certainly not going to get a lot of details about the rest of my relationship.
No. Yeah.
He's been very mysterious. Something I did not remember at all, but apparently he was linked to Katy Perry. That was like a rumor ship at some point. He went on to date FKA Twigs for 3 years. It was reported that they were engaged, but then called it quits in 2017. I mean, again, like it was reported. We don't have a lot of details. Yeah. He's currently dating Suki Waterhouse, who is gorgeous. They were first linked in 2018. And again, just like all of Rob's relationships, they're an extremely private couple. So I think that this is like, to me, as we just are going to continue to gush about Rob, this is just us being obsessed with him, but like really, really impressive. I feel like he set a standard for his career, for what he was going to do, for the kind of films he was going to be in. And then he set a standard for his life, and he refuses to back down. And I love that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I, again, could not agree more with you, Fiona. I think it's so commendable when people that are so in the public eye make the conscious effort to keep part of their lives private. I mean, you can see it just biting you in the butt if everything in your life is in every magazine or on Instagram. Like, I never ever consider Robert Pattinson someone to post on Instagram and Twitter all the time. Like, it always seemed like there was some distance there, which ultimately I think makes him more mysterious and interesting and attractive and alluring. And I just think it adds to his character. And I think a lot of people could take a chapter from his book in terms of not everything has to be super, super public, especially something as intimate as a relationship. So I'm all for it. I mean, of course, I'd love to know more. I don't want to know anything I could possibly about Robert Pattinson, but I also totally understand the principle and agree with him. But what about you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think certain celebrity couples like John Legend, Chrissy Teigen, they're so open with fans. They're so overshared to the max, but that's part of like their personalities. Like Chrissy Teigen is hilarious. She's the kind of person who's comfortable putting it all out there, really like keeping her fans in tune with where she is on a daily basis. But she's Chrissy Teigen. Robert Pattinson, this mysterious, dramatic, serious actor, like, that's okay that that's not his personality. Yeah. All celebrities have different roles to play, not only like in the industry, but in like pop culture trends and like social media of it all. Like, not everyone needs to fit the same box. And I think it's wonderful that Rob has sort of designed his own.
I totally agree. And I say we talk I mean, we're in 2020 now, and he is showing no signs of stopping his career, which I'm, again, obsessed with. So he's considered now, like, I think one of the top actors in the business in terms, I mean, think about his versatility, his range of characters he has played since Twilight. It is astonishing what he's been able to pull off. It's incredible. I mean, of course, he had a starring role in Christopher Nolan's Tenant that just came out. The Devil All the Time. He is a part on Netflix, and I am sort of quivering because, boy, he was so good, but really awful in that movie. Like, he was a monster in that film.
God damn it, boy! Listen to me. I ain't gonna take the blame for no bastard child.
With a full Southern drawl, I was like, I don't even recognize you. And that is so exciting as a viewer to, like, as someone who is a deep fan of Robert Pattinson, being like, I do not know who this person is. I mean, that is talent. And I mean, that's what people refer to as like Oscar-worthy performances. I mean, I think, who knows when the Oscars come up this next year, I think he's going to be a name that we're going to begin seeing over and over and over again, like Leo DiCaprio. Like, I think he's just going to be a name that he's in these films over and over and over again that wow people and show off his chops. So, I mean, I think this is truly, what's so odd is that we're talking about like 2008, but I still think it's only the beginning for him. I'm like, it's only the beginning, but he's been a full working actor for a really long time, like 15 years. So I don't know. It gets me so excited about that. Of course, I mean, and we'd be remiss not to mention the fact that he is going to be Batman. He's going to be the next Batman. But of course, that has been pushed back due to a lot of like COVID things on set. It was reported that Rob himself got COVID. That's something I cannot wait for him. He's going to be a next superhero. Like, he's going to be the next Batman. Like, he's unstoppable right now. And I say we just check out like a little bit of a clip. Because why not? Let's
do
look
it.
at a clip.
If you are justice, please do not lie.
So obviously there's been a lot of issues on set with COVID and going on and off and on and off. And I think they're off right now. That's why it's being pushed back. But if this is the trailer that they are giving us before they can film this movie properly because of this pandemic going on, I think we're in for a treat. But what about you, Fiona? What do you think of 2020 Rob and future Rob?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the Batman of it all. I remember when the casting news came out and it was like Robert Pattinson, and like people who aren't as familiar were really into like the superhero world, but maybe aren't into the like indie film world, but do remember him as Edward Cullen. We're like, what? Like, is he going to be able to do it? And I know I've seen like people I know be like, oh, I'm really stoked about this Batman thing, that maybe weren't as on board in the beginning, because you take one look at him in a role like this and chills. Like, I get chills from that trailer. I think this is going to be the start of his, like, I know you just said the same thing. He's been around for a long time. This isn't the start of his career, but this is going to be the start of his, like, I'm going to use your example, Leo era. Like, big role after big role. We see him at award show after award show. Like, this is the starting point of his, like, I'm Robert Pattinson career. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not Edward from Twilight. I'm Robert Pattinson. And you know this.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think it's safe to say that we could go on gushing about Robert Pattinson for a shocking amount of time. But I do really think like the most exciting part of this entire thing is where we are right now. And it's like this future turning point. And all we can do is just say like, we're ready for it. We're excited. So I think we've really covered the evolution up until now. I mean, here we are. He's evolved. He's amazing. He's an icon.
He's evolved.
We of course want to know your thoughts. Do you agree with us? Do you think his career has evolved into this powerhouse dramatic actor? Or do you think that his peak was in the Twilight days? I mean, obviously there's no right or wrong here.
Of course.
So let us know down in the comments, what have you thought of his career trajectory? Do you have a favorite project of his? I mean, Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob? Throw that one into the mix. Just let us know all your thoughts down in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. You can follow me on socials at Fiona Zaring. And Tyler, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at TylerJo33 and on TikTok at Tyler Joseph Ellis.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.